Hello and welcome to What the Fort. Today we're talking about the wide topic of prehistoric buildings and the materials used to construct them in the UK. We have lots of materials surviving from later buildings, but very little survives from the prehistoric period, and this is largely due to what was being used to construct these buildings. For the purpose of this video, we'll be talking about the Neolithic, Bronze Age and Iron Age, so from around 4000 BC to when the Romans arrived in 43 AD. We won't be talking about stone circles today, as they're another wide topic as well. Most houses at this time were made using timber, and this doesn't survive in the wet UK climate, but we do find evidence in the form of post holes as to where buildings were and how big they were.
Post holes were dug to support the upright posts of buildings. Sometimes these were packed with stones. When the post was no longer needed, if it was removed, sometimes the stones fell to the bottom, and it was either filled in by people or left to naturally fill with silt. If the post was left in the post hole to rot or removed above ground, we sometimes see the remains of this left when we excavate, and this is called a post pipe.
Domestic structures at this time were either round or rectangular and usually varied between 4 and 14 metres, with the average roundhouse in the Bronze Age measuring around 8 metres in diameter. The large upright posts were made of timber and the walls were made of wattle and daub, which is a mixture of mud, clay, sand, animal dung and straw. And the roofs were made with thatching or turf. This is an example of what a Bronze Age roundhouse would have looked like. We know much more about the construction of these buildings due to the discovery of the site at Must Farm near Peterborough in Cambridgeshire. Several houses burnt down around 3,000 years ago, and these fell into the river below, preserving them. Finds such as textiles and wooden objects have been recovered, and timber uprights from the buildings have also been preserved. Archaeologists have been able to tell much more about how these buildings were constructed because of this. They have found that the large upright timbers were made of ash and the floors were made of wattle panelling suspended over the river below. There was also ash palisades around the outsides of the buildings. Other types of wood used for construction in this period includes oak, lime, alder and birch. Of course, not all structures in the prehistoric period were made of timber, and some were made of stone. Many of these still partly survive today, and the most famous collection of domestic buildings from the prehistoric period is at the site of Skara Brae in Orkney, off of the top of Scotland. These houses were built around 5,000 years ago, and each has a stone hearth for heating and cooking and stone furniture such as dressers and seats, and each door could be closed with a stone slab. There are also stone hut circles in many other locations across the UK, such as on Dartmoor. Other structures seen on prehistoric settlements include grain stores. These 4 to 6 post structures were usually square and had large substantial upright posts. We think through excavation and experimental archaeology that these were small storage rooms on stilts for the storage of grain to keep away animals such as mice and insects from spoiling the grain. We also know that grain was stored in large storage pits capped and lined with clay. Through experimental archaeology, we've been able to tell that grain can survive a winter stored like this. Some structures built in the prehistoric period were not houses for the living, but burial places for the dead. Chambered tombs started appearing in the landscape around 4000 BC, and these have small chamber areas for burial of the dead. They were made using large megalithic blocks with earth thrown over the top. Some of the most famous examples of these are in the Orkney Isles, including this one at Cerwean. This was all made using stone, and there's no mortar in between the stones. There are also nice examples of chambered tombs across the Cotswolds, including this one at Hetty Pegler's Tump near Ewley in Gloucestershire. Through excavation and experimental archaeology, we can tell how people lived and how they built the structures that they used for shelter, storage and burial of the dead. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hope to see you soon.